Hey folks, it's Carrie Oberbrunner. I have a question for you. Are you thriving? If not, you're probably dying. But we're going to talk to a very special author today. It's his launch day. Aaron Marcum, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm good.
Oh man,
Launch day. It's been a journey.
I'll tell you what. This book is, I think it's your opus. You might have used that word. I certainly have.
Yeah.
Why did it take you this long to write this book? And not in a negative way, but I mean, you've been
Yeah.
a student for years. So
Yeah.
talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one of those things when you're talking about the lives of entrepreneurs and that whole journey,
Yes.
I wanted people to feel like I was talking to them as their guide and get into that voice. And I think it took me a while to really get that kind of channel that, right? And of course, trying to live what I preach, if you and not burn the midnight oil all the time, and I had to watch out for my own well-being, so in that process, I felt
That's
like
true.
I had to live that.
Well, I'll tell you what, you go into these parts of your book. Give us the point of pain because you were this father, you still are, but you were a father of young kids at the time. Kind of take us into the place where you realized, man, I am not thriving.
Yeah. Yeah, there's different parts of my journey where I felt that way. One that I talk about in the book that really it was my second company,
Mm,
2015. I'd already successfully sold my first.
okay.
And you think I would learn my lesson about investing in myself. I was overweight, not healthy,
Mm,
and was struggling. Physically, I was very inconsistent, exercise, all of those things.
sure.
And yeah, I had hit that kind of wall. And then, there was a time I talk about in the book in 2010 where I was sleeping under my desk
I
trying
remember
to get
this.
this
I remember this part of the
benchmarking
book.
study. It was a big industry study that the trade association had asked me to do for the home care industry, which is many of my companies that I've been involved in are in that space.
Mm.
And I was sleeping under my desk in a sleeping bag. First time I'd ever taken 5-hour energy shots. That was, trust me,
You
that's
were you
not
were cutting the
a normal
corners,
thing for
man.
me.
You were cutting
Yeah.
the corners.
Yeah. I was cutting corners. I was exhausted. And I remember I've always had, not always had, but for years I've had these things I call my guiding truths. And they were literally on my wall while I was sleeping under my desk. And my first guiding truth is my mind is at peace. And I certainly wasn't feeling that way, and so I had to really rethink what I was doing, how I was doing it. And then, as it goes in the journey, 5 years later, I found myself in a similar situation.
Mm,
I was tired of that kind of going this kind of roller coaster. And it was 2015 into 16 where I made these changes in my life. Really found positive psychology in 2017 and just have been on this journey. And what I'm grateful for, it hasn't been that roller coaster like the previous years. It's just been this kind of, it's always this way, but at least it's going up, right? And so it's been just an incredible journey that I've wanted to share with everybody. I went deep into positive psychology, got a master's degree from UPenn, studied under the father of positive psychology, Martin Seligman, and it has changed my. I think I'm a better father, a better husband, a better employer, all the way around, and discovered these 8 laws in that journey and wanted to share this with all entrepreneurs out there. So,
let's talk about that because I am blown away by these 8,
yeah,
um, what do you call them? The 8 what?
the 8 laws that accelerate financial freedom while creating the good life. That's the subtitle of the book. These are the
Yeah.
8 laws of entrepreneurial thriving.
Listen,
And
you're
so it starts with clarity, create, grit, connections, all of these things that we hear about. But what does that have to do with the entrepreneur? And how is the entrepreneur able to incorporate and cultivate these laws in their lives? And then, for an entrepreneur, let's just be honest. I mean, we have financial goals as entrepreneurs. We want to thrive financially and find that financial freedom. But what I found in 2015 is that I was doing decent, pretty good financially, decent that way, but I was not thriving.
Mm.
When I really invested in myself, and also let go of control of my business and really trusted others. I talk about in my book the importance of faith in others. That's
Mm.
faith, entrepreneurial faith,
Yes.
and letting go, delegating, all of those things. We found EOS that year. I've also, 5 years as an EOS implementer as well since that period of time. And so just getting frameworks and things in place that help, not just scale a business, but transform myself. And as I transformed, my company was like hockey stick growth, right? During that
Wow.
that period of time. And if you ask my leadership team, they will tell you that it's because Aaron really started letting go, investing in his own well-being, and allowed the whole company to kind of flourish and take off.
So
And so
there
that's
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So there's this principle in my favorite book. What does it profit a person if they gain the whole world and lose their soul? So your
yes,
book is kind of talking about, look,
yeah,
you can have everything, but if you don't have, like you said, your health wasn't good, you were sleeping under the
yeah,
desk, even though your bank account might have been okay, or maybe it wasn't, that wasn't thriving.
yeah, 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 and the thing, we talk about the lie of the either or, which is a concept you and I kind of strategized on early on. And again, what an amazing journey with you and igniting souls in the team, and really
Awesome.
appreciate everyone there. But you and I talked about the lie of the either or. And it's a concept that we kind of strategize together. And lie of the either or is that we as entrepreneurs live this lie that we can either thrive personally or we can thrive professionally, but we can't have both.
Mm,
And I was living that lie. And I think many entrepreneurs live that lie that I
yes.
can either have one or the other. And unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, we pick the other. We pick the professional side. We're like, I'm all in professionally. If my business continues to grow, eventually my personal well-being will catch up.
Sure.
And that's the lie, is that
Sure.
usually doesn't happen. Is we usually not just burn out. I think that's a little bit overused sometimes, is we might even be obsessively passionate about our venture. And that obsession kills our personal well-being, our personal relationships. I talk about the difference between obsessive passion and harmonious passion,
Mm,
and also calling, which is kind of the next level. That's the impact on others.
yes.
And so it's really important that we don't live that lie. That we put our investment in the personal side. Balance is a myth. Sometimes we have to be 60%, 70% in our business, but at least that 30 or 40%, let's be present in our personal side. And I continue to struggle with that like anyone else does as an entrepreneur.
I'm looking at your my right. I see a bunch of medals, and I see your family up on the frame. I see books. I see a pretty balanced life in the sense of, look, you have those 8 laws. Maybe not perfect, nobody does, but what started to change health-wise, family-wise?
Yeah. Yeah, 2016. I have I mentioned him in the book, Dale Green, a great mentor of mine. He's passed in 2022, passed from cancer,
Wow.
very hard at the time, but he got me going back to the gym. He was a 4 a.m. gym guy, right? He was he was there, and so I started doing some of that, getting back into the
Wow.
gym. And then April 2016, I've always had this desire, not always, but for several years, desire to get into road biking, which is, you and I share that passion together,
Yes.
right? E-Mind, the book that you just wrote,
Yes.
amazing experience you had there in France. But the thing I just wanted to, I knew that running, my wife had been a runner. She ran collegiately. I knew I wasn't a runner,
Knees are
but
shot.
I want, what's that?
Those knees are shot.
I know, I know. I just didn't want to do that to my knees and got into the biking. So April 2016, the day I ordered my road bike was the same day that I signed up for a 207-mile bike race, one-day bike race from Logan, Utah to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, called Lauded. I mentioned it in the book. I'm a quick start, like, let's do this kind of thing. Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting
That's
into. A
a
lot of
lot of
guys who
miles.
had been road biking for years thought I was nuts. But 5 months, I had 5 months to train for it. And so did it. I had 2 wonderful buddies, Matt and Brett, who helped train with me. And we talk about drafting in the book, the importance of having drafting partners. I wouldn't have finished it without them, but finished my first year,
That's
and
awesome.
that changed. That was a real like turning point for me. And those medals are all medals since that I've gotten since then. In that during that journey, I've completed it now 4 times. One year I did not finish. I kind of bonked is the term that we often use in
Yes.
cycling, but yeah,
That's legit, man. Um, I did 200 miles this summer, and, I mean,
amazing.
you gotta plan that out just to get enough daylight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and your fuel is as important as your training, as you know. Like, if you don't plan the fuel and you don't try any new things. At 2017, I tried new things and didn't stick to my
Okay,
regiment,
okay.
and it messed me up. But
Couldn't do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you and I could go off on
Oh, man,
that
we
one.
could.
But there's so many parallels, as you know.
Yeah,
You wrote a whole book about it, to the entrepreneurial journey when it
yeah,
comes to biking, and
yeah.
so
Well, listen, the book's out on Amazon.
yep.
You got this amazing, family of yours here. Are these all your kids, or now you have some, in-laws
No,
too?
those are the 6 kids. No
What?
married yet. So, none of
Wow,
them married
okay.
yet, but yeah, there's 6 beautiful kids,
And this
14
is
to 26.
14 to 26. Oh my gosh. And then here's you at the, graduation?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow,
people don't realize I got this master's degree at age 50, so that was when I had just turned 50, and
gee.
so
But look
yeah,
at you, man. I mean, I look at the academics, athletics, travel, family. I mean, why I already know why you wrote the book, but talk to us about the entrepreneur who's hiding under their desk, sleeping under their desk,
yeah,
cheating
yeah.
corners. Um, talk about that person.
Yeah, I use the word congruence quite a bit in the book, especially when it comes to connections. And when you look at those pictures, and I want to just make this point for all entrepreneurs who are sleeping under the desk, right? Who are in the struggle. I've been there. That's why I wrote the book, to maybe help guide them through, learn from my mistakes, because I didn't do it perfectly, not even close. And I continue to struggle with certain things. Like, you can look at those pictures, you can, Aaron has this amazing life, and I do have a good life. Like, I am not going to lie. I'm
You just
looking
went
out at the Snake
snowmobiling too
River.
with your buddies.
What's that?
You just
Yeah,
went
yeah, just a couple
snowmobiling.
weeks ago, my college buddies, snowmobile, an amazing trip. I do have a good life, but it's far from perfect. And as we go through life together, as humans, it's that connections, reach out to people,
Mm,
like, and be your true self. That
wow.
congruence is like the first phase to deepening your connections. Because if you're not the same person in public as you are in private, then it's really hard to have deep, meaningful connections at that point. And being, obviously we hear present a lot, but having like daily high quality connections, that's why it's the kind of the central law in the book, is like focusing on our relationships. Back when I was in 2010 sleeping under the desk, what helped get me out of that is I've been married with my wife Heather for 27 years, and that connection has pulled me out of the abyss sometimes, and helped me kind of, I mean, this book wouldn't even been possible without her, right? So it's deepening, it's finding those meaningful connect, whether you're married or not, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Connections, I think, are so important. um and invest in the most important ones.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you came up with something new with this book. I've never seen these 8 laws before. You had a marketing branding team come alongside some family and friends. It's everything is well done. I know you worked with our friend Mike Canings. I mean, I feel like everything in this book is at an excellence level that
Yeah.
I've not really seen. What do you hope? I tell people that the book is a business, not a business card. What other things do you think will happen from the book?
I'm super passionate about entrepreneurs in general, and I really I want to give them hope, and help them understand that, the big thing too is a lot of ideas don't come to fruition because the entrepreneur gives up because they're not thriving. They're not finding the calling or the passion. And so first and foremost, I hope all entrepreneurs um, find hope in this book and not give up and continue to move forward, because entrepreneurs make the world go round. They really do. Specifically, I'm very passionate about home care entrepreneurs. That's a group that do struggle with a lot of turnover in that industry. They do so much good, though. I've seen so many good things come from the impact. I use, my company that I exited, Home Care Pulse. We measured all that, so I saw it firsthand. I was front and center, and so the hope is for that entrepreneur to really find that flourishing. We're creating programs from the book,
Yeah.
and so we have this program called the Breakaway Accelerator program that I'm super excited about. Takes these 8 laws plus, we're really digging into positive psychology when it comes to the culture of retention and accelerating their growth. And so my hope is also to be connected with these home care entrepreneurs to help them accelerate their growth in so many different ways, and eventually expanding it to other sectors as well. But really focusing on what I am super passionate about, as a entrepreneur. I've been in that industry for 22 years and want to continue to help elevate that industry and use my unique skill set and background to help do that. So that's what I hope to to do, on both the book level as well as programs and launching new opportunities. So
The content
yeah.
itself, though, is incredible. I mean, the programs, that sounds fantastic, the Breakaway Accelerator. But let's go into some of these laws here. I love the fact that you um, defined each one, and I think you and I have both been inspired by like a John Maxwell, and he does some
Yeah.
of this. He does some of this, but you have the law, which is killer, but then you also have these other quotable, timeless truths. Let's just have you read one and maybe talk
Yeah.
for you know 30 seconds on each
Yeah.
subtitle here because I think they're so good. So let's do
Yeah.
this one first.
Yeah. So the law of clarity, and we've updated that just a little bit. We probably need to update that here, but your guiding truths illuminate your way is the law,
Nice.
or the phrase there. And guiding truths,
Mm,
those are the whys, right? That they're the same thing.
yeah.
And that's your personal why as an entrepreneur.
Wow.
So before you set your course on your core values, find out what you want.
Mm,
And you and I, Dan Sullivan is our coach,
yep.
strategic coach.
Yep.
You and I, and that's where you and I
I
met,
didn't know-
which
Yeah.
is, yeah, pretty cool. But Dan has always taught for years, it's okay to want what you want and not
Yeah.
apologize for it. And so figure out what you want. That's what that
Okay.
means. Second one, you create. You believe in a better way in a bigger world. We
Ooh.
are creators as entrepreneurs. If we're
Mm,
not creating, our well-being suffers. And if we're not creating space, that white space in our schedules,
yeah.
we're not creating. I use the term deep thrive session. So every week trying to go all in at least once or twice a week in more of a deep thrive, deeper dive into my own creativity or my own space. Connections, very important. Who goes with you will determine where you end up. So those entre connections,
Nice.
congruency, present, high quality connections, the 3 levels of those connections. The Good Life book really emphasizes that as well. The entrepreneurial grit, your staying power is fueled by passionate persistence. Very important, as far as grit. And there's 5 levels of grit: curiosity, interest, practice, passion, and calling is the last one.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
really important that we get those right. And that we understand where we are with those levels of grit. You
Okay.
know, that if we're in the practice phase of grit and we're not yet to passion, maybe a little bit more practice, or maybe it's a process or something that we need to change to help move us into the passion phase. Passion is about us, what we're passionate about. That helps with our grit. Calling is about passion and the impact you want to have on others and
Nice.
the greater good, right? Entre faith, your future's brighter than what you can see and feel. So
Mm,
entre faith is faith in ourselves, faith in others, and faith in God.
mm,
And those 3 levels, is that like testing ourselves on, where is my faith? Do I believe in myself as an entrepreneur? Am I putting or giving my trust in others? I use the example, not really in the book, but recently, Megan, my strategic assistant, first week she had my passwords. First week she had my bank accounts. I gave my trust, and our relationship is even stronger because of it, right? I
gee.
trusted that she was the right person. That's how important that is. And I use the example of Dale Green putting trust in me in that one. Law of Entre Habits, ultimate performance flows from your daily focus. So really dialing in on what we call character strengths and positive psychology. And what if we could have the character strengths like leadership, spirituality, all those like real virtues as well,
Mhm,
running in the background of our lives,
mm,
like unconsciously, just automatically. And so bringing those to the forefront and learning to create habits out of those. Law of Entrevigor, the energy you carry carries you. That's mind
yes.
and body alignment. Joe Dispenza's work is great on this, is that aligning your mind with your body and making sure your mind is in control of your body. I don't feel like biking all the time. And sometimes I give into my body and say, keep sleeping, or, don't do this hard thing. And so
Sure.
getting your mind aligned with that. And I talk about the Mustang mind in that. I think it's a powerful concept. And then the law of entre agency, I call this the keystone law of all
Mm,
8 laws, is that if you are not creating, both in your own personal life, but also in the workplace, if you're not creating an environment of imagination, an environment of optimism, an environment of self-efficacy is the word we use in positive psychology. It's just really belief in ourselves that we can
wow.
figure things out. And so if you're not creating that in your own lives, then and blaming others for the outcomes and all of those things, then we're not thriving, as entrepreneurs. Agency is key. Anyway,
Gee,
probably
that's
longer
so
than
good.
30 seconds each, but that's it. That's the
Listen, I see each one of these laws. I mean, I get fired up when I see entree grid. I'm like, oh my gosh. Um, they're just all amazing. I mean, I think people could literally screenshot this thing, wallpaper it, and
yeah.
put that right front and center. Um, what do you hope happens with this book? What do you hope God does with this book with entrepreneurs?
That's I love how you phrase that. What do I hope God does with this book? Because I think when you write a book, and I think you've taught me this, honestly, is that don't write the book for bestseller status or anything like that. If it hits bestseller lists, awesome, because it's getting into more hands. It's getting out there, and I would love that, of course. But to write it, what kind of impact do you want to have
Mm,
on your audience? Who are you writing to? And I really had a few entrepreneurs in mind when I really got the voice of the book. It was when I switched to people I knew, people I was coaching that were struggling, that I knew really could use this book. When I started focusing on the one, I was writing to the many
mm,
that are in the same boat. And I just hope the many take this, cultivate it, the 8 laws. Like, I really feel like it is my opus in that sense, is that I just want people to take them and elevate their own well-being. And if I can get people to comment on it and say it's changing their lives, man, that's such a good feeling when you are not only helping the entrepreneur, but think about the impact they have, not just in their own personal relationships, but in the workplace. Like, you're really accelerating well-being and thriving in the workplace, in all the small businesses, medium businesses out there that are driven by entrepreneurs. When they're taking care of themselves, they're showing up at work with their best selves. The whole business grows. And that's what I saw in my own company, is that growth just took off when I really did the same thing. And so
So good.
I'm not asking people to do anything I haven't done myself.
I love it. Well, listen, that subtitle is Who Doesn't Want the Good Life? But I'm glad that you define the good life, because I feel like even that is, I would call it transformational. There's not a lot of people out there who have defined the good life, and that's
Yeah.
why they struggle. But you're somebody who's like, look, I had portions of the good life, but I wasn't thriving because I didn't have all of it.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, I all the way from Travis to Travis, our friends watching, all the way to Tanisha,
Yeah.
and
Thank you, Travis.
oh man, listen, our whole team is so happy for you for this book. We know it's already setting lives free. Um, I showed you a screenshot the other day. I quick shot you that, and I'm like, wow, we already had people jumping in saying, I ordered it because
Yeah.
people need this.
Yeah, it's already hitting Amazon's
Oh
hot
yeah,
list here. So
people are
yeah,
sick of the whole hustle, crushing it in one area and then dying in another. Folks, this is a book you need to get, because it's going to give you that
thank you.
true picture of what thriving is. A lot of IP in this book too. I mean, you were literally speaking and the words were coming, and I'm like, ooh, that's IP. That's IP. Um, I think your 8 laws are really something special, Aaron.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm excited for what it, continue to make the impact there. So, and
Yeah.
thank you, Igniting Souls. You
Oh,
guys are rock stars.
well, listen, your family is celebrating with you today, and a beautiful family. And listen, keep making it happen. And I think I'm going to see you in Florida.
Yeah, next week.
All right, man. I can't wait. I'll get you to sign a copy here. But thank you, Aaron, and we really appreciate everything you're doing for the entrepreneur community.
Thank you. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate you.